I mean, I think the mistake, kicking off with a negative, the mistake sometimes we make with new technology or whatever is to kind of focus on it on a small kind of scale. So it's like, you know, how can we use this to do something, you know, to text message evangelism, you know, or whatever it is. But I think that the interesting thing that's going on with technology, I'm a big fan of Marshall McLuhan. I don't know if you know his stuff, because what he focused on was how technological changes, what people often focus on is the content, you know, we're going to shift the content, but actually if you change the technology, you change a lot more than you bargained for. So I think that's the thing that interests me. And in terms of the communication technologies, you know, a lot of the jargon that's been around and been talked about recently is what's called Web 2.0. And I like this shift in terms of community. And what it means is Web 1.0 is kind of a website that's just an information, which interesting enough is a lot of the way churches use it. You just dump your sermon, information download for people, whereas Web 2.0 is the kind of smarter technologies, websites that are about social networking, that are about kind of drawing in and joining up different kind of tools that people use. But one of the catchphrases that I like and I think connects quite strongly with the shift that we're talking about is the phrase community is the content. So if you take something like, I mean, I take photos, I love taking photos, so there's a photo web sharing site called Flickr where you can upload your photos, but it's a real community thing because you can kind of, you know, add friends, look at their photos, there are groups on particular themes, you tag your photos in a particular way, other people can find them. But for sites like that, sure, the photos are important, they're part of the content, but actually it's about the community. So the technologies are creating the environment of participation. And that would be my second kind of thing with the Web 2.0, that as well as community being the content, what is being created is an environment of participation. And the third thing is it's a place for they're sites for self-publishing. So if we take those three things, say, I mean, we could talk about loads of different things with technology, but those as an example coming out of the kind of web world, what would church look like with community as the content if we created an environment of participation and if it was a site for self-publishing? Now, I mean, as soon as you say that, you realise, well, what we've got as church at the moment is almost opposite to that. I mean, you know, there are some churches where there's great community, but it's not necessarily the content. You know, we're very much focused, I think, on word and sacrament, and we have a kind of, whatever denomination or whatever it is, we have a priest laity thing, or we have an expert or provider client, perhaps is a good way of putting it, in a consumer culture. We're trapped into this sort of provider client thing, so we turn up and we expect religion to be served up to us and we consume it. Well, that world, I think, shifted in a good way. So certainly, I mean, the community I'm involved in, Grace, for example, we have some core value words, and interestingly, and it's not because of this, one of our core value words is participation. And if you're going to be part of our community, you're going to get involved, you're going to participate, and we see that as key to who we are as a community. And another of our words is creativity, so you're probably going to be self-publishing. So I mean, I kind of realised reading about this, the Web 2 stuff, that actually we kind of get remade by the environment, the new environment, without noticing it. So our instincts and reflexes and so on are different. So I think it strongly connects very positively with thinking about church. And, you know, there's a lot of thinking being done about it, which is good. So I'm sure you know Pete Ward's book, Liquid Church. So his definition there of church is connectivity to Christ and to one another. Now that sounds pretty loose, but I think it's embracing some of the shifts that are going on. And then perhaps the last shift, I'd say, in terms of technology and certainly the Web 2 stuff that's perhaps obvious, is the global one. You know, I mean, again, to use Marshall McLuhan phrase, the global village, you know, normal that we connect with people around the world. You're from America, you first emailed me, that wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, this is another Flickr example. I got an email this week from someone I've never met, had looked at my photos on Flickr, and he's asked me to go and take a photo of a flat in Ealing where he first lived when he got married, because he's coming up for his 10th anniversary and he wants to give it as a present to his wife or partner. And, I mean, at one level, like, what a cheek, but I mean, that's kind of normal. So that global connectivity, I think, is very much part of it. And I think that's exciting from the point of view of thinking about church, because one of the reasons I think it's important to connect globally is that we only really know who Jesus is as we see Christ's many faces around the world. So the global connection isn't just about it's nice to meet different people, it's about knowing who God is, I think. So that global connectivity is great, I think.